My name's Sabrina Ramnam, and joining me today is Jacquelyn Thomas-Smith, who is one of only 684 African-American women in the U.S. to hold a STEM degree, a computer science degree in robotics from Carnegie Mellon, which is amazing. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
I am Jacquelyn Thomas-Smith. I do have a degree in computer science. I'm a Southern girl, born and raised in the little small town of Cleveland, Mississippi. I decided to pursue a degree in computer science. I've always known that technology would be where it is today. Even as a kid, I was just always this innovative, creative person. So I went on to major in robotics and computer science at Carnegie Mellon. And I decided to turn my degree more toward education to be able to reach back and give back to bring other young girls up and to be able to pursue a degree in computer science or something interesting that they want to do, because I really do combine robotics, computer science with business. That's why I decided to go to use my talents for education in the education arena.
Awesome. And share a little bit about what you're working on now, girls pursuing science and kids in technology.
Yeah, so a Girls Pursuing Science is actually a curriculum. I'm also a curriculum developer. It's a curriculum that I developed for girls using cosmetic chemistry. So I teach them chemistry and introduce girls to chemistry as early as fourth and fifth grade through cosmetics. It actually is real chemistry. It's real mathematics. So what girls do is develop and create their own product line, and then they have the opportunity to pitch their product before investors. So we have a pitch contest every year. Lately, in the last 2 or 3 years, it has been virtual. So we do that through our Kids in Technology program. And we basically partner with schools, community organizations to implement our program. And as far as Kids in Technology, we also partner with schools. So that's more of a B2B relationship. Our curriculum is taught in schools, public schools, private schools, community organization, parks and recreations. So we sell our STEM curriculum. So we provide professional development to instructors and teachers, and they in turn implement our program in the school. And our latest project for Kids in Technology begin in 24-25. We are going to implement K-5 AI curriculum and start introducing kids as early as kindergarten to artificial intelligence, because truly the bottom line is that's going to be their world, whether we want to accept it or not. And that has been Kids in Technology's history. We started kids building computers back in 2002 at the age of 8, when it was just
Wow.
totally unheard of. But we truly believe that the earlier you start, the better. And to wait till a kid get to fourth or fifth of middle school to start trying to teach programming or coding, especially in your urban public school districts, it's almost too late.
So I definitely want to dive a lot into the AI curriculum, but first I wanted to give the audience a sense of pursuing science. How many kids do you estimate have gone through your curricula so far?
I'm sure we've been at it since 2002. And I'm sure we're probably at least 200,000 kids. We've done kids, especially during 2020, we reached a massive amount of kids. We started doing international programs in South Africa.
I'll talk about impact, like 200,000 kids that you are changing their lives for the better and providing this education. So that's absolutely amazing. But yeah, I want to dive into what you're talking about, like AI and teaching it to kids at a young age, because one of the most common questions that I get is around parenting and teaching kids. How early is too early? And how do you begin to teach your kids AI? How do you frame that conversation, contextualize it? How do you use it ethically while also fostering critical thinking? What are your thoughts and guidance for parents and teachers who are watching this? How would you recommend that they think about teaching AI to younger kids?
The bottom line to computer science, really critical thinking and analytical thinking and patterns. So you have to think in those terms. That's what the curriculum is going to be about, focusing on creativity, problem solving, practical applications kids can relate to. Don't think as an adult. We're going to teach you how to use artificial intelligence, really formulating, if you will, or getting their brain used to patterns and thinking in terms critically, or problem solving with things that may have nothing to do necessarily with the computer or AI as we know it. And in school, unfortunately, kids are not taught how to think. As simple as letting a kid think their way through a process, see
Mhm.
how they are handling it, or to see what they're thinking in their little minds. You will be surprised. The more you do those small little things, just letting them solve little problems, however you can implement a thought process with your child. You can see where they're going. And as you do that, you begin to see, wow, he or she is thinking. And
Mm-hmm.
in school, unfortunately, we have a kid to read a book or now on a tablet, memorize it, take a test. Does not allow them to think at all, from the most privileged or
Okay.
well-to-do, wealthy, to some of the kids in the poorest of neighborhoods. And actually, it's really not a huge difference. It's just the exposure and what they're being exposed to. Of course, in private schools, they have computers, they have all the latest equipment. But those kids, that thought process is about the same. Because in school, it's like they go over a lesson and the kids study and go take the test, but you're not actually doing any hands-on or project-based learning, or just thinking your way through a process or building something and figuring out, or coming up with a community project. Get kids together, and really when you get them together, especially girls, the creativity is out of the window, because they have to, actually with girls in pursuing science, when they're doing or developing a product, they have to come up with the name, they have to come up with the logo, the
Mm-hmm.
color scheme. All of that is thinking your way through a process. Doesn't make sense. We do have teachers who do K through 3 and K through
Mm-hmm.
second, but we let them make ice cream. We let them figure it out. If you got 10 kids in a class, everybody gets at least 8 ounces a cup. How much do we need to make? Things like that. So then eat the ice cream at the end. That's always fun. So we truly believe in hands-on and letting kids actually think their way through. The bottom line is creativity, problem solving. At the end of the day, that's what it is.
I love that. I love that. And it reminds me a lot of my own content creation process. Like, I may have many videos saying, like, here are 5 courses to learn AI. But what I really hope is by filming myself use AI to code apps, that it will inspire people to try it themselves. Like, that's kind of my
Yes.
ultimate goal as an educator, because it's not about passively consuming my content. It's
Hmm.
about letting that content inspire you, spark that curiosity so that
Absolutely.
you take the leap and do something hands on yourself. Because I don't
Mm.
believe that's the highest ROI in terms of time investment. If you have limited time, I would much rather people, go into ChatGPT or play around with AI tools and just get hands on experience using this stuff rather than taking like a theoretical course about it, which is going to be outdated in 6 months, by the way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I really love that emphasis. And so I
Right.
absolutely love that. How are parents, receiving your education, and especially as it comes to AI, because I get so many questions from parents about how to teach their kids AI.
So it depends on the environment that we are in. We have the opportunity to work in all environments. And if I'm at a school, if it's a private school, parents are excited. But if it's a traditional public school where you have underprivileged kids going, they don't want it, or they may feel like,
Really?
they're afraid of it, or why should he learn that? These kids, but for the most part, it always comes down to, seems like, income or socioeconomic.
That's so interesting to me, though. Like, I guess what surprises me is if you don't necessarily have access to a lot of other opportunities, why not leverage AI as a way to personalize, accelerate, and democratize educational opportunities for your kids, at least. So I'm curious, like, why there would be so much resistance in like different socioeconomic groups.
Yeah, so, really it may boil down to culture. There may be some cultural differences, and maybe what they feel, or maybe what they're being taught, or if it's a private school or charter school, working class parents, it's different.
Yeah, it definitely worries me because it could contribute to further widening the gap in terms of access and education. That would be my biggest concern.
Absolutely. And can you imagine how I feel? I mean, being a Black female, and my mom wasn't like that though. But my mom sent us to private school too. And my mom was still paying tuition once we left private school, because she put everything, my mom pushed education. And my mom only had an eighth grade education. That's why it's hard for me to define what's in the minds of these kids, parents that are going to underprivileged schools. And another thing too, the leadership in your public schools. I know I would probably get my head chopped off. A lot of times the teachers do not understand it, even on the principal level, and they're being forced to implement STEM education. You could count the public schools on one hand in a district, in a large school district that have STEM schools. And even when they do peel that onion back and go into the schools and see what they're calling a STEM school and see what they're teaching. In fact, every parent is listening to my voice right now. If your child is in a school and they're teaching and in a quote unquote STEM school, I would beg to know what are they teaching, or take a look at their curriculum and see if it's truly STEM. The teachers can't teach it, or they don't know. A lot of times they will call on a fifth grader, could you come show me this on a computer? That happens a lot
Well,
too.
this worries me even more. If there's already a really big gap in terms of AI education socioeconomically, it's only going to widen because they're not able to role model it for the kids. If they don't know how to use AI themselves, if they're fearing it themselves, then they don't really know how to role model how to use it effectively or creatively to the young students they're teaching.
And that's a huge jump that you're making to go to AI. And in a school district where we are servicing right now, had never heard of Scratch.
Really, from MIT.
You got it.
It's interesting you mentioned that because my most viral video on Instagram is about resources for kids to learn AI and coding. And I'm surprised that so many people don't know about it. So many parents don't know about it.
Teachers are given a Bible called Common Core Curricula, and what's in that Common Core Curricula is what they're teaching.
Is AI part of it yet?
It's still in schools to where they are not allowed. They're still fighting it. They don't want AI in the school because it's dumbing the kids down and they're going to cheat. You got all of these ideologies. A lot of schools are blocking it from their campuses. You're not allowed to use AI, like ChatGPT. Like the teachers cannot access
The
ChatGPT.
teachers can't even use it. I didn't know that. Even if it could help, like, you create lesson plans or like come up with creative exercises, you're not allowed to use it at all.
Absolutely. Some schools are not. Some schools are still fighting it. That trickles down to the parent too. That's another reason why parents in those schools may feel that way. They listen to the teachers or the administration, and they're leaning in and depending on what they say and their guidance. But unless it's a charter school, a private school, but your typical public schools just are not allowed to use it. The kids are not allowed to use it.
Do you think this will evolve over the next couple of years, especially with private schools and charter schools being role models for how to adopt AI within the classroom ethically?
The bottom line is school in the United States is government, and the wheels of government turn slow. So I think if the Department of Education ceased to exist with the new administration that's coming in for our government, and it's handed down to the states to handle it, so the governor of each state will decide, I think then you're going to see the breakaway, because you'll have states that embraced STEM a long time ago, that really embraced it. You're going to see those states just take off and go. But your states that are slow to embrace it, it's probably going to be geographically structured. That would be my prediction.
And what advice do you have for parents listening who maybe they're not getting the support they need from the leadership at their school, but they are aware that they want to teach their kids about AI at an early age? Like, what resources do they have to turn to? What do you recommend for those parents?
Scratch is a free program. It's online. They have so many free programs. That's just one of them. Scratch, they have so many resources. Parents really is just going to have to be parents and take control of their kids' education. Go online. There's so many programs out there. You can go on and register your kids for these online programs. So many summer camps too for kids that may be parents. Well, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to go online, that may not be there yet. Your community centers in most cities, in most communities, at churches, community centers, with park and recreation, summer camps. Most of the time, kids typically get that interaction with STEM camps or technology camps. And if you can't afford it, typically most of them have scholarships. And the time is now to start looking for your kids something to go to in your community programs that you can enroll your kids in, if you have to do it in person. But there are tons online that you can just Google.
And do you think the online programs are just as effective as the in-person ones?
Of course, that truly depends on the kid. In Charlotte-Mecklenburg school systems, after 2020, 30% of the kids did not come back to school because parents figured out they learn better online. It depends on your kid. If you're hands-on or you're a kinesthetic learner and you have to be in person, that's a decision that the parent would have to make. And it just depends on the type of learner that your kid is.
Oh, this is such a fascinating space because, as I mentioned, like one of the most common questions I get is about parenting and teaching your kids AI. I get it so frequently that I've been thinking about creating like an AI academy for kids to learn AI by using AI to code AI games. I'm like, maybe I should build that, you know? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I
So,
think that's such
with
a
the
great space.
curriculum that I'm putting together, I'm really trying to figure out how to make user-friendly for parents to be able to teach because I do realize and know that is a thing. I get that question a million times. She is so interested in science. She loves science. She's just 7. She's always doing stuff, putting things together, tearing them apart, putting them back together in my house. I hear it all the time. You're absolutely right. But we typically sell curricula to schools as well as to homeschools. We kind of like homeschool. I'll be done with this when school starts back next year. But by summer of 2025, I'll be done with this curriculum. And we're in the early processes of developing it, trying to figure out how to get this in the hands of parents.
Yeah, I was gonna say I totally get the model of selling to schools, but why not go direct to all of the parents, not just people homeschooling formally?
Right?
Because I know many parents who reach out to me who, they've enrolled their kids in public or private school, but they're looking for enrichment opportunities, additional
Absolutely.
online courses, trusted sources of information that are interactive and, as you said, introduce different modes of learning so that kids can truly explore and figure out what fits for them.
Absolutely. It's just been my history selling B2B and not having a lot of experience of going B2C. But TikTok and social media would help you do that. And that's why I just been following you, learning all the little tools that I could use to get my program out there. And I hadn't really been aggressively trying to market it yet because I don't have one. And I'm really trying to figure out a way to add the B2C option in there. I really do want to do that.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
Parents are always welcome to reach out to me because a lot of times the big question really is their child. How does their child learn? What has been the exposure? What are they doing in schools? We've been at this since 2002, teaching kids technology in the early stages while they're young. And I know so many programs, it's just that we even have an online lesson plans and Scratch and things like that in videos that I'll be more than happy to share with parents.
Okay, awesome. And we'll have your email and contact information in the YouTube video description. If you're listening, it'll be on the YouTube video or in the newsletter, sabrina.dev. And wanted to switch gears and also talk about your work with the Department of Justice. So you developed the groundbreaking curricula for the first technology program for the Department of Justice's Job Readiness Initiative. Can you talk more about how you even got to that opportunity? What did it look like to develop it and the success and impact it's had?
Absolutely. Actually, that's where I started off. I was teaching computer science at a juvenile facility for one of the largest private prison corporations in the country, CCA. So I went from there and I was using my own curricula because back then, around 2000, 2002, when technology was first beginning to be implemented within the education arena. So I decided to develop my own curricula for a CCA. And from CCA, it went from juvenile facility to adults. So I sold it to CCA. I sold it to Wackenhut. I sold it to State Department of Corrections. And it was actually my proposal to the Department of Justice was to truly rehabilitate a person once they go to prison. And with technology on the rise, back then and where it was going, this way, offenders will not re-offend. So that was a part of my proposal. And I was certified them on the grounds before they got out of prison through A+ certification. So I would teach them how to repair computers and do computer repair through the through the CompTIA A+ certification program. And they would take the classes for 13 weeks. I developed the curriculum myself for 13 weeks for inmates. I went into the prison, traveled to prisons all over the country, actually. And then I started selling to the Department of Justice, the United States government, just Department of Justice, going in those prisons. And I sold my curriculum. I did that for years. And then I had a state senator to challenge me. He says, why are you educating these prisoners when you can really help kids in school that are doing the right thing? And I think that's when I switched and went to, and I thought when they get out, they won't reoffend. They need jobs too. And I just never thought about it.
And just for context, like how did this interaction with a state senator happen?
I happen to know him. He's a friend of our family. And he's like, why are you doing that? And I thought, And I used to catch a lot of flack for that, though. A lot of backlash from people in the public, like, why are you educating inmates? I caught a lot of flack for that. I look at them as people, as human beings, honestly.
So that interaction with a senator really made you question your focus and you started to focus on kids. And looking back at like your entire journey, what would you say was the most difficult?
I think the most difficult part for me was in the marketing and the selling of the program. When you sell to government, they go by the lowest bidder and people stealing your ideas. Because the only thing in prison you would see would be carpentry, those traditional skills. And when I introduced technology, then other people started trying to do it and they underbidded me. And I kind of started losing contracts that way. So that's when I started going to the school system as well. So nothing really ever stopped me or challenged me. So I just always felt like I could. And I really admire those parents. I say, keep up the good work. Please reach out to me if you have any questions about trying to get your kids into AI, because that's going to be their future. The world would not look like it looked as even in 5 years. Amazon delivery, self-driving cars, even in some restaurants now you have robots bringing food to the table as waiter and waitresses. Life is going to look so different for your kindergarten in 5 years than it does right now. So I would just say to the parents, kudos to you all who are looking to do something. Even the schools are not going to do it. And for parents who just are afraid, please find a way to break through. Kids are the future. It's a real thing. They represent a time that we will not see.
What do you use AI for on a daily basis? Do you use it to help develop your curricula? Do you use it to help coach parents? What's your daily use of AI look like?
My daily use of AI is everything I do to develop curriculum. So we raise on average of $20,000 to $30,000 a month in writing grants for submitting proposals. And you could train ChatGPT. So it knows kids and technology, so it writes all of our grants for us.
So developing curricula as well as handling a lot when related to fundraising or grant proposals?
Grant, fundraising proposals, budgeting, because of course, when you write a grant, you have to submit a budget. At one point, it was doing about 80% of the work. Now I'm up to about 95% of the work. And I just kind of go in and edit it a little bit. But for the most part, it's so good. It's so accurate. I just put the questions inside of ChatGPT. The power really is in the prompt. So I just prompted to do what I wanted to do. I'm shooting out maybe 10 grants a month.
Is that what you were doing before, or has AI actually helped you to do more in the same amount of time?
I wish I had this 10 years ago. I've been writing grants since we've been in existence. You have a community nonprofit organization and you're the executive director, you wear 10 hats. So AI has taken like 8 of those hats off. They use it for everything, for writing emails, any correspondence I have. And now I'm trying to start doing automations to automate some of that stuff. I want to develop a GPT to generate grants too, and I just haven't had. If you're a legal person, so much you could do in the legal world. I don't do legal, so I'm not going to try to start using AI to develop or be my lawyer or anything like that. In the nonprofit world, I use it because that's what I know. I've been in the nonprofit world for a long time, so I implement it in every aspect in running our nonprofit.
Yeah, and I think some of the people who have the quickest success with AI, it's because they already have a bunch of expertise in a field, and you have the expertise to evaluate whether the answers are on points. And yeah, that's why I recommend just starting with the industry you already know or a hobby that you already know, because you'll just have a much smoother interaction as you get used to going back and forth and iterating on the prompt.
1,000%. And that's what I use it for. I'm teaching for lesson plans, for activities, ideas on lesson plans, and in nonprofit.
When you describe this to people, you tell them it does 90% of your grant writing today. What is the reaction? Do people believe you? Do they not believe you?
People are slow to come on, especially if they're not used to using AI every day. I was speaking with a colleague. He said to me that no way he's going to use a robot to help him write his grants for his nonprofit. He's going to do it himself. I said, let's talk in another year. I guarantee you won't be saying that. So that type of ignorance, sometimes it's ego. Then I have people that are afraid of it.
And when you say afraid, what is the fear? Is it job displacement? Is it something else?
Just to see it come alive on the screen, just the whole interaction of that. Then your mind start thinking, whoa, where's this going? You start thinking the humanoids. You start thinking movies. I think that's what it is.
There's actually the pop culture that's kind of painting that scary picture.
Even if you were going to work, just think from 9 to 5 and you finish everything by 12 noon, would you do it? It's just proficiency and efficiency at the end of the day. Of course, you're going to have to go through and make some changes, but that's with anything. When the internet first came out, people, I'm not going to use that. I'm not doing that. Really? I know a guy was my mentor. He always said that growing up that he's not going to use that technology. But then when you introduce them to Candy Crush or a game that they can play on their phone, They're all in.
Besides ChatGPT, what are your three favorite AI tools?
I like to compare Claude AI and ChatGPT and Google Gemini. So I like to compare those three when I'm writing. I truly believe ChatGPT is king. When I'm doing writing and writing grants, ChatGPT, I always get it. A lot of times, I love ChatGPT. For images, I like ideogram. I do so much writing. That's why I lean more toward ChatGPT. And I teach a lot of writing classes. I do Black Writers on Tour in California every spring, to where I'm introducing to authors how to use ChatGPT to create their
Wow.
books. I think I'd probably do ChatGPT 90% of the times, because most of my work includes writing.
Yeah, any last tips as we close out this conversation? Anything you just really want to impress upon the minds of parents and educators out there?
Artificial intelligence is the future. Technology has gone to a whole new level, and it's here to stay. And I just plead you to educate, get involved, stay involved, to be able to just simply exist. At the end of the day, critical thinking, analytical thinking, problem solving, creativity is going to be key to implementing and running with artificial intelligence and technology.
I love that message because it brings it back to us, the humans, at the end of the day, and
At the end
being
of the
able
day,
to be creative problem solvers. And that's what allows us to wield tools like AI in a way that makes sense. How can the audience find you today, reach you?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok as the AI teacher, makekidsandtechnology.net, and girlspursuingscience.com.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thanks so much for joining me.